Doctor. Face me now.
Mother Superior, there is only one thing I need from you. This planet. What is it called?
Trenzalore.
Oh, Smeg. This isn't going to be an easy one, folks, because I didn't want him to go. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my review of Doctor Who, The Time of the Doctor, the 2013 Christmas special. Before we start, I'd just like to ask, did you enjoy Matt Smith month? I hope you did. And we've got one last video to wrap us out, and that is, of course, this review. Everything throughout the Matt Smith era has been building to this. All the stuff from Series 5, Series 6, and towards the end of Series 7 and the Day of the Doctor. We did take a bit of a break throughout Series 7 ourselves for the 50th anniversary series, and Stephen Moffat probably intended to wrap it all up in Series 8. But then in June 2013, Matt Smith confirmed he was stepping down from the role of the 11th Doctor, which was very disappointing. Especially considering his story arc wasn't finished, and Stephen Moffat had to wrap it up in this one last episode, as Smith confirmed he would only be doing this Christmas special, and then that would be it. No last series, this is it. So, Stephen Moffat has to wrap up the 11th Doctor's story arc, whilst also following up from what happened at the end of the Day of the Doctor, and doing a story in its own right, all in the space of 1 hour, and then regenerate the 11th Doctor in the last 5 minutes or so of that hour. So the pressure is on for Stephen Moffat to achieve all of that. Did he succeed? Yes. Is it perfect? No. The problem is that because this is his own story as well, Moffat decides to kind of do a couple of odd things with it, which I'll get to in a bit. But the plot basically is there is a strange call coming up from this planet, which is eventually revealed to be Trenzalore, and the 11th Doctor and Clara go to investigate via the Church of the Papal Mainframe, led by Katasha Lem. You may recognise the uniforms of the clerics from the Series 5 two-parter, The Time of Angels and Flesh and Stone, as well as A Good Man Goes to War from Series 6. So the Doctor and Clara go to Trenzalore to investigate, and they discover that it's Gallifrey and the Time Lords on the other side of a crack that is in the wall of a church in the village of Christmas on Trenzalore. And on the other side of the crack is Gallifrey and the Time Lords in their pocket universe following the events of the Day of the Doctor. The crack is very similar to the cracks in time throughout the universe from Series 5, which is caused by the Doctor's TARDIS being blown up, apparently by the Kavarian chapter of the Papal Mainframe, who also tried to stop the Doctor reaching Trenzalore, and including blowing up the TARDIS and trying to create a psychopath to kill him, a la River Song, as well as a couple of other methods. However, the Doctor has now finally reached Trenzalore, but when his Cyberman head handles deciphers the code, everyone in the universe now understands the message, which is, of course, Doctor Who, the oldest question in the universe, as established at the end of Series 6. So the Doctor now has to stick around on Trenzalore to stop the villains, the monsters and villains from up above, to coming down to destroy the village, basically, as they don't want the Time Lords coming back. Otherwise, it would set off a new time war. So the Doctor has to protect the crack in time without having to say his name, but he also has to protect the town people of Christmas. Sorry, I'm muddling my words up a little bit. So that is basically the plot of The Time of the Doctor, but as the Doctor is on his last life, I'll get to that later, he cannot regenerate, therefore he's going to die on Trenzalore. This is going to be how he dies. But he's not going down without a fight. He is staying put, and he is defending the town. He is going to make sure the people of this town are safe before he dies. And this possibly makes the 11th Doctor the most heroic Doctor in terms of defending lots of people he doesn't know for hundreds of years. In his final regular appearance, Matt Smith is absolutely fantastic as the Doctor. He's putting his all into the performance throughout the entire story, and the episode is more or less focused on the 11th Doctor, and it's more or less a tribute to his Doctor as it's wrapping up his story and giving him a send-off, a good send-off, I would say. Unfortunately, this story does have a couple of questionable moments, as I mentioned, and I'm going to get to that just after I mention Clara. Now, Clara, not got a huge amount to say about her, but honestly, I think this is the best of depiction of the character since The Rings of Akaten, name of the Doctor. And Jenna Coleman does a brilliant job playing the character. The character, of course, is going to get more developed in the next series, not so much in Series 9, but more so in Series 8, I think. But in terms of here, I think it's the best she's been since The Rings of Akaten, and Jenna Coleman does her best performance since that story as well. And as for supporting characters, there's only really one worth talking about, Tasha Lem, who's a pretty great supporting character. I also mentioned the villains. The Daleks are brilliant, voiced again by Nicholas Briggs, who also voices the Cybermen. Daleks are used really well, really effectively. I wonder if when they blew up the big spaceship, if they were blowing up the Paradigm Daleks, as I was wondering if that was the Supreme Dalek that was doing the boom voice, that or the Emperor, who may have returned. Well, we've got several Emperors before, feasible. It's uncertain, but as we never see the Paradigm Daleks after Sign of the Daleks ever again, apart from in that web comic game from a few years ago, maybe that was the destruction of the Paradigm Daleks and there's just a lot of gold ones left. Cybermen are used pretty well to begin with, but the wooden Cybermen, I think, is a bit silly. Weeping Angels didn't need to be there. Sontarans, this is their absolute silliest appearance outside of the Commander Strax stuff. And to be honest, I actually like Commander Strax. I thought his scenes were good. I think he was a little bit annoying in Name of the Doctor, but to be honest, I find Strax to be a pretty funny and entertaining character. But he's definitely lowered the Sontaran's reputation over the last couple of years, and since we haven't had a proper Sontaran appearance since proper Sontaran story since the Sontaran strategy of the Poison Sky, nor have we seen any Sontarans since Deep Breath, with Strax's last appearance. Then the Sontaran reputation has really gone downhill, and this is probably the silliest the Sontarans have ever been in this episode, bar the Commander Strax stuff, and even then he has a couple of comedic moments where he plays it straight. But this is the silliest Sontaran bit. And as for the Silence, they're really great. They're now allies of the Doctor. As we got the Silence who follow Tasha Lem as opposed to Madame Kavarian, and they are allies working alongside the Doctor to protect Trenzalore. I also like Barnacle. He's a nice character. Also, Sheila Reid, who plays a character in Vengeance from Varos, plays Clara's gran in this episode, and she's really nice as well. Has some great moments with her. Okay, let's get on to my issues with the episode. I have a couple of issues that kind of knock down the episode a bit more. It's more in the first half of the episode. After the really great pre-title sequence, we then have the naked 11th Doctor, and the whole stuff with the Church of the Papal Mainframe having people be naked or something. But yet they're wearing holograms to show that they're wearing clothes or something. So what was the point? What was the point of saying they come naked and nudity and etc. whilst we see them with clothes on? Yeah, sure, this is a family program and there are children watching, but if you're going to have the characters wear clothes, just say they're wearing clothes, or just don't mention the whole nudity thing. Just don't mention it. It's stupid, it doesn't make sense, and it's unnecessary to the plot. It doesn't tie anything with the plot. We've not really learnt much about the Church of the Papal Mainframe itself before. We've just seen a couple of divisions from it. And even then, in Good Man Goes to War, they were probably wearing their own proper clothes anyway. The Doctor mentioned anything about that. Same for Series 5's Angel 2-parter. They were probably wearing clothes there, so what's the point in just saying then the whole nudity joke here? It doesn't make sense. Like I mentioned, I also thought the Weeping Angels were pointless in their scene. Well, the bit where they're in Christmas with the mirror bit, that was fine. But when the Doctor and Clara reached the surface, originally the Weeping Angels are pointless there. Also, the Doctor has shaven off his hair because Matt Smith had done that for another role, and so they decided to make it a joke in this episode that he'd shaved off his hair for being bored, and he puts a TARDIS key underneath it. No. You didn't do this joke with William Hartnell when he wore that wig, or Paul McGann when he wore his wig. So yeah, why are you doing it with Matt Smith? Doesn't make sense. Doesn't bloody make sense. And I already mentioned the Sontarans. My biggest criticism, I can easily go into a rant for a long time. I'll try and keep it minimal. The worst thing about this the story, in the context of the overall show, if we're going for the episode itself, it would be the stupid nudity jokes. But in context of the show, the 11th Doctor reveals that he is the final incarnation. Due to the War Doctor, the 11th Doctor, we have one extra life. So we presume the 11th Doctor would be the 12th incarnation now. But then it's revealed that David Tennant's regeneration in the 10th Doctor's regeneration in the Stolen Earth Journey's End counts. I'm sorry, but what? Are we really doing this, Moffat? Were you just so impatient to do the final Doctor story early? You couldn't wait until the end of the 12th Doctor's era to wrap it up, or you couldn't let somebody else do it if you left before then, or if you left during 12's era. If you finished with Matt Smith, or you went during the 12th Doctor, who Peter Capaldi was cast as, you were so worried that if you left with Matt Smith or during the 12th Doctor's era, you wouldn't get to write the final Doctor regeneration story because there'd still be one incarnation left. Two, if you hadn't written the War Doctor in. You so wanted to do the final Doctor story that you use that fake out regeneration from Stolen Earth Journey's End counting. And in hindsight, he might as well have not bothered, because he stayed for the entirety of the 12th Doctor's era as well. He might as well have written the 12th Doctor's final story as the final Doctor's regeneration story, and then the 12th Doctor is worried that that's their final adventure, that they're not going to go down without a fight either, and then at the end, they get the final regeneration as well, whilst here, the 11th Doctor is just trying to delay it as long as he can, so he can protect the other people, whilst he knows his following successor either needs his own life, or probably will go once they become the new Doctor. Probably, or at least it's just going to stick around as long as they physically can. But no, Moffat decided that he had to write the final Doctor story here, so we got that fake out regeneration counting. One last negative point. I think the Clara Christmas dinner stuff didn't need to be there, as I think naming the town called Christmas would be Christmas special enough, and the whole stuff with Clara's family doesn't really do anything for me, apart from Sheila Reid as Clara's gran, but she could still cameo like she does in Dark Water. So yeah, apart from Sheila Reid as Clara's gran, the scenes at Clara's Christmas dinner don't really do anything for me. In more positive stuff, I still find the story entertaining and enjoyable, and I think it's a pretty great way to wrap up the 11th Doctor's era. I do think it should have been longer, especially with the whole Christmas dinner stuff, the silly jokes earlier on, and the whole Doctor defending the town from the monsters. I think we should have had an extra couple minutes, maybe 10, 15 minutes, make this a 70 to 75 minute episode. Hey, Dave Doctor should have been 90 minutes, in my opinion. So this one could have been 75. And Deep Breath is 75 minutes for some reason. So we could have gotten a 75 minutes special to wrap up the 11th Doctor's era, especially if you're going to include the points I mentioned with the naked jokes, the Christmas dinner stuff, and etc., and all this monster attacks. We could have had a bit more of that, or we could have some more moments with 11 and the townspeople. We could have gotten maybe some more time to wrap up the 11th Doctor's era, as most of the reveals are kind of explained in dialogue. We could have gotten a bit more exposition about that, but nevertheless, it's still an enjoyable, entertaining story. It's just a shame there are a couple of silly points that kind of knock it down a bit. The whole regeneration, counting the Stolen Earth regeneration, kind of affects the lore of the show more than the episode itself, but I wanted to go into a bit of a rant about it because it was annoying. But the story itself, apart from a few issues, is still pretty good. I know it's not that popular, and no, not people like this one. But if you take out some of those earlier issues, or if you extend the story to include more good stuff in it, then it'd probably be a fantastic way to end off the 11th Doctor, his era, and say goodbye to him. It's the one the 11th Doctor gets, but I don't know if it's the one he deserves. I mean, it's paying tribute to him, but is it necessarily the episode he deserves to have as a final story? I will say it is better than The End of Time, by a pinch. I actually like The End of Time. Shoot me. Don't. But I think this one is slightly better because it's more of a tribute to the Doctor who's regenerating, whilst in The End of Time it was a massive wrap-up of the era, and the 10th Doctor was more or less crying about not wanting to go, whilst 11 here, he knows he's going to die. As soon as Tasha Lem says Trenzalore, the Doctor knows that's it, it's over, but he's not going down without a fight. He's going to delay the end as much as possible. And that is heroic. The only Doctor who could possibly rival the 11th Doctor in their final story as an epic hero would be Peter Davison's 5th Doctor in the case of Androzani. Although John Pertwee does also come pretty close in Planet of the Spiders. I think I think it's 5 and 11 in their final stories who are the biggest heroes. With 5, he's sacrificing himself for someone he barely knows, or knows very well if you follow the Big Finish continuity. Whilst here, the 11th Doctor is standing up for lots of people he doesn't know, but he's also trying to save his own people and prevent the Time War restarting, or a new Time War starting. So, yeah, he knows he's going to die from this. Not just this last life, but this is the final life until he gets new regeneration cycle at the end. Thanks to the Time Lords and Clara. So he's delaying the end as long as possible, and he's not going down without a fight, which possibly makes him, as I said earlier, the most heroic Doctor there was, although Peter Davison's 5th Doctor does come extremely close. So overall, I'll be passing The Time of the Doctor as an 8 out of 10. I did consider giving it a 9 at some point after watching it, because it was really fun and enjoyable. But the points I mentioned earlier, the more negative stuff, that is more obvious and still right there. And even if with some extra good stuff in it, it would still be there. If it was taken out, the story probably would be a 9 out of 10. And if longer, a little bit more, and explained a few other stuff and given more time for the Doctor to battle monsters or something, then it probably would be a 10. But as it is, it's a nice solid 8. So that's my review of The Time of the Doctor. I honestly thought it'd be a better episode if they removed a couple of negative issues I had with it, but it's still a really great episode nevertheless. So that's it from me. Thank you for watching, but before we go, there's one more thing I have to do. Matt Smith, thank you for being the 11th Doctor. You were fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Here's to you. But the Doctor Who journey would continue. As I mentioned, the Doctor got a new set of regenerations. Regenerations at the end of this story, and he regenerates into the 12th Doctor. In the regeneration scene, I think... the 11th speech is nice, and it's nice to see Amy again, and the whole split regeneration is a good idea. It's a quick snap regeneration, especially after the big showcase on the church. But the editing is kind of crap when they do the snap regeneration. It kind of looks it makes it look a bit crap. I think a snap regeneration, quick one, is fine, but the way it's filmed and edited is a little bit crap. And then the final scene of the TARDIS crashing for no reason is just stupid. So, yeah, actually, I think the End of Time's regeneration scene was better. Heck, maybe even Twice Upon a Time, although the regeneration effect is better than there. So the regeneration scene itself it starts off nicely, but then it gets a bit crap later on, and then Capaldi is given a bit of a disservice in his first scene. It's probably the worst post-regeneration scene. I think it's probably the worst post-regeneration scene. Full stop. Unless you count the entirety of Time of the Rani after the first episode's title sequence. But the good news is we will be seeing the 12th Doctor again in Series 8, starting with Episode 1, Deep Breath. But that ends the 11th Doctor's era, and that ends Matt Smith month. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. And we will see you in the next video, whatever that may be. It's December next month, so I'm sure we'll find something to talk about or do in the lead up to a Revolution of the Daleks. Yay! Just over a month or just under a month, depending on its broadcast date. At the time of this video going out, it might even have actually gotten it. So, thank you for watching, and I shall see you guys next time. Goodbye.